Well, welcome everyone. I'm glad you could join me at our first Photoshop class, DES104. So this is going to be a really exciting class because one, you are going to learn how to install your Adobe suite of programs, which is the software program that you're going to use for all of your classes. So you're going to get Photoshop, you're going to get Illustrator, you're going to get Adobe Muse, you're going to get a lot of things. You are also going to learn how to make, I just saw my hat is all weird. You are also going to learn how to make your first project in Photoshop. And you're going to quickly find that this class is a lot of fun, okay? And this first assignment that you guys are going to get is really easy and your chance to experiment with the program and learn about the program and just see what you can come up with. Now, a really important thing about this class is I know you guys are super excited to get started, right? Are you guys excited? Because this is your first ever graphic design class. And I know that you know, the reason you signed up for Independence University's graphic design program is because you're passionate about graphic design. And I'm sure, you know, you were taking those general ed classes, eagerly awaiting your first graphic design class. So yes, you have a lot to look forward to. The assignments that we're going to do in this course are going to be really, really fun. And it's understandable that you also might be a little bit nervous, maybe a little bit nervous because maybe you've never used your laptop before. Maybe you've never used Photoshop before. And you might, you know, see that you only have 4 weeks. So that means you have to do these assignments in only 4 weeks time. And so you might be a little bit nervous about that. But let me just take a moment to alleviate all of your concerns. This course is designed for students who have never used Photoshop before, who have zero previous computer experience. So if you are one of those people who've never used Photoshop before, who's never had computer experience before, just rest easy, relax, because you are going to do fine. I've been teaching online for over 10 years, and I've been teaching here at Independence University for close to 8 years now. And, you know, I've taught thousands of students. And I would have to say 90% of my students have never used Photoshop before, have never used a Mac computer before, but I have a really high success rate with my students. I'd have to say that, you know, usually close to 95% of the students end up getting a really good grade in the class, like an A or a B. So this should be your class where you get an easy A, okay? And I really want you to tell yourself that you are going to get an A in the class because, you know, there's going to be tough classes in this program. You're going to have, you know, your management classes, your algebra classes, your history and your sociology classes. If you're going to get a B or a C, get your B's and your C's in your algebra or your management or those types of classes. This is your graphic design class. So not only is this the first graphic design class in the program, this is your first graphic design class. So this is the class that you want to get an A in, right? And the thing is, a really important thing is you have to understand that it's going to get harder from here. There's going to be, you know, your next class that you take after this, whether it's intermediate Photoshop or Illustrator, is going to be a little bit more challenging. And then, you know, each mod, things are going to get more challenging and more challenging. So I want you to start, you know, your first ever graphic design class with a really solid A, and know that I am willing to bend over backwards and do whatever I can to help you get that A. And if at any point you are feeling like, you know, you're stuck on something, which happens, you know, even this class is designed for students who've never used Photoshop before, but it's totally understandable that you might see me demonstrate some tool, and then for whatever reason that tool doesn't work the same way for you, or maybe you need to troubleshoot why something isn't working, well, guess what? Email me, okay? If you get stuck with anything, email me. That is what I'm here for. And I'm willing to meet with you. I'm willing to figure out whatever that problem is. Another really important note is, in addition to this live class session, which I have every Monday at 5 Mountain Time, you have a multi-session with me, which is on Thursday. So a good strategy for your success in this class is to, of course, come to my live class session on Monday. This is the session where I'm going to be demonstrating how to do your assignments. And if you don't have time for maybe all the reading, you don't have time to do watch all of the videos, you have maybe 2 hours, and then you have to get your assignment done, and then you have to go to work, or you have to do whatever it is you have to do. Watch this first. Of course, like all classes, this recording of our class session here on Monday night is going to be posted on YouTube, so then you can watch it forever and ever. And if you can't make the meeting for whatever reason, you can watch the meeting recording on YouTube. But watch that. This is where you should be, like the first day of class. Do this, and then I'm going to explain how to do your assignment. So you follow along, on either tonight or on Tuesday, do your assignment, and then you can come to my multi-session on Thursday, which is not a formal class session. It's just a time where I'm going to be in here in this classroom, and I can then provide you one-on-one feedback on your assignment. I can answer any questions that you have. I can troubleshoot any issues that you're having, and then you can leave my multi-session on Thursday, knowing that you are going to get an A on your assignment, because I saw it, and I told you what things you had to fix, or I told you, yes, this looks awesome, you're going to get an A on it. And then you can kick back and relax and enjoy your Friday, Saturday, Sunday without having to worry about spending your weekend doing your assignment. So that's a strategy that most students use. Watch the class session on Monday, do the assignment on Tuesday or Wednesday, come to my multi-session on Thursday to get my feedback on it, and then, turn it in, and then, relax the rest of the week. And there's a really important advantage to, getting your work done before the weekend, not only because you want to be able to enjoy your weekends, but it's important because in week 4, Saturday at midnight is a hard deadline. That means absolutely no work will be accepted past Saturday at midnight. And the students who get in the habit of turning their work in on Thursday, end up avoiding that, that crunch time on Saturday, week 4, because it always happens. There's always one student who is uploading an assignment week 4 Saturday. You can just imagine you've spent all this time on your assignment. You're in the middle of uploading it, maybe at 11:30 p.m. at night, and then all of a sudden, because of the your file is taking a long time to upload, all of a sudden, before you know it, it's midnight and you get kicked out of the classroom. So even if you're in the process of uploading your file and it doesn't upload in time, you will lose out on at 185 points. And that's the difference between an A and a C. And you guys don't want to, you don't want to get a C in your first graphic design class, in your easy graphic design class. You want to get an A. So I am willing to do whatever I can to bend over backwards to help you get that A. This is an easy class, so you should do fine. What else do I have to tell you? Take notes. So if you guys don't have a piece of paper handy right now, go right now, in the next 30 seconds, grab a piece of paper and place it next to your laptop. And then grab a ballpoint pen and place that next to your paper. And you are going to use those two devices, that paper and that pen or pencil, and you are going to write down notes. Because a lot of what I'm going to be teaching you here in Photoshop is kind of like a recipe. There's going to be a number of steps involved. I'm going to be, crayon is fine too, Alexandria. Thank you so much for, you can do marker, You can write your notes with whatever you want. But don't type your notes, because studies have shown that when you actually physically handwrite your notes rather than typing it in Microsoft Word, the information goes into your brain and stays there longer than if you, if you type up your notes. So actually, physically handwrite notes on paper with a pen or a pencil. Okay, so I'm going to go kind of step by step through how to do something. So as you're taking notes, what you're going to do is you're going to write down step 1, and you don't have to write out step 1. You just write the number 1, and then you circle it, and then you write what I did. So 1, file open, right? That might be the first thing I do. 2, make a new layer, Shift Command N or whatever. And then 3, select the brush tool. So write out notes like that. Don't transcribe everything I say, make a nice, neat little bullet pointed outline. And then another really important thing that you need to take notes on is shortcut keys. Okay, I will periodically be telling you things like Shift Command N to make a new layer, or Command S to save, or Command C to copy. Write down those shortcut keys, because those are the really, really important shortcut keys that you are going to use in the industry all the time. And showing that you can use them professionally is going to help your career a whole lot. Okay, and I think that kind of covers all of that important stuff. And now we're kind of ready to get into your first assignment. And also installing Photoshop and installing, your Adobe Creative Suite of programs. So, welcome. These are the things that we're not going to cover that. We'll cover it at the end if we have to. We are going to cover the differences between vector and raster graphics. And this is going to be an important thing for your quiz this week. And we are also going to talk about how to use the shape layers to create a original project or design in Photoshop. I also want to go over doing your discussion and then your assessment questions this week. So if you are, again, I just want to reiterate, if you are new to Photoshop, please do not worry at all. This course is designed for you, and I'm going to take you step by step through how to use Photoshop. But if at any point you struggle or you are worried that your tool isn't working properly, email me, come to my multi-session, text me, get in touch with me, and I will be more than happy to help you. Alrighty, let's go into our classroom and go through the process of downloading and installing the software that you need to not just do this course, but to do all of your courses here in the program. A really, really important thing is that this software, it needs to be installed by Wednesday. Okay, it needs to be installed by Wednesday, and that's mandatory because we want to make sure that you have enough time to do your week 1 assignment and get it turned in on time. So what you're going to do first to download Photoshop is go here to the IU Graphic Arts community, and you're going to click on it. And then you're going to go down here to the pre-learning assessment, And you're going to click on it. And you're going to take that pre-learning assessment. And it's going to be, you have to figure out which program you're in. But you're going to take that assessment, and it's about 60 questions. And you aren't going to be graded on this at all. This isn't going to, this isn't going to impact your grades or, determine whether you're going to get kicked out of the program or anything like that. The whole purpose of this pre-learning assessment is so that we as a school can evaluate how much knowledge you have prior to coming into the program. And then when you graduate, you are going to take another assessment, at the end, and then the two scores will be compared. And so we will be able to then know how much you learned while you are in school with us, okay? So that is the purpose of the pre-learning assessment, and it's mandatory. You must take the pre-learning assessment before you will get access to the Adobe programs. So take that as soon as possible. Then you're going to go to this link here that says Adobe, and you'll click on it. And then if you are, like many of you, you're installing Adobe for the first time, you're going to click here. And then from here, you are going to follow all of these instructions. And there is a really handy link here for those of you who are using a Mac computer and maybe you've never used a Mac before. This link tells you all about your Mac and how to use it, and how to do everything with it. So I would definitely encourage you to scroll through that. But really, if you're concerned about using a Mac because maybe you've never used it before, I really want to stress it is super easy. Don't worry about it. I remember when I graduated grad school, I'd only ever used PCs before. And one of my first jobs was with a Mac computer. And not only did I have to know how to use a Mac and design with a Mac, I had to teach other people how to use their Mac. And I found in about 2 weeks, just by playing with it on my own, picked everything up, super easy, was no big deal. So, if you need a little support, go to that page and scroll through and find out how to use your Mac. If you're good to you follow along with your instructors, learn a little on your own, visit the occasionally YouTube video when you get lost or stuck. Definitely, take advantage of those resources. So what you'll do is you'll follow these instructions on to install everything for the first time, and you're going to go to this link. You again, follow all the instructions. If for whatever reason you are having difficulty and it's not working for you and you need assistance, you are going to contact Sean Childers Gray at independence.edu, that person there, and he will assist you. Okay. He also has a special time set up that is just for getting help with your Adobe installation and your Mac computer and all of that. And oh gosh, it's on Friday, so you can go with him and meet with him on Friday. But I don't know what the time is off the top of my head. I will let you guys know what that time is. But yeah, if you need any assistance, contact Sean Childers Gray, and I'm posting that email in the chat, sean.childers-independence.edu, and he can assist you with that. So in review, take the pre-learning assessment first. Then after you've taken the pre-learning assessment, go to the Adobe link here and follow all of the instructions, and it's fairly easy. Alrighty, now what we're going to do is jump into a few last-minute details, and then I think we're going to talk about your assignment. So for those of you who are just joining us and who maybe came in a little bit late, good strategy for success, and you guys are going to succeed because this is your first graphic design class. You're passionate about this. You are going to get an A, and I am going to bend over backwards and do everything I can to help you get that A. So attend or watch the weekly lecture, which is on Monday today. Take notes on paper with a pen or a pencil or crayon or marker or whatever you want. But actually take notes physically with your hand, because studies show that the information goes into your brain better when you take notes with your hand rather than typing in Microsoft Word. Contact your instructor me immediately if you have any questions at any point, get stuck with anything. And then you just communicate with me, and then turn in your work before Saturday at midnight. One other really important note, if you are going to be late with an assignment, and maybe I'll turn back onto the screen share so that you guys can see me. So if you are going to be late with an assignment, what you need to do is email me right away. So let's say something happened in your life. Let's say you had an emergency. Let's say your job just made you work overtime that week and you didn't have a chance to get to it. Email me before midnight Saturday, letting me know that your assignment is going to be late. And I will usually be more than happy to accommodate you. What tends to make me a little bit grumpy is when students contact me on Sunday or Monday to let me know that their assignment that was due on Saturday is going to be late. Well, you know, why didn't you let me know before the deadline? Why did you wait until Saturday? So I'm going to be a little bit less generous in those instances. Please do just communicate with me. I know that life situations happen, but one, you know, when I send you an email saying, hey, I see you did something incorrectly on this assignment. Do you want to meet with me and go over like how to do it correctly? Reply back to my emails. Like, I want to help you. When I reach out to check in on you, reply back and either tell me, yes, I'm doing good, or no, I'm struggling, and tell me why you're struggling. But reply back, respond, communicate with me, because I want to help you. And of course, if I have to contact you on, Monday or Tuesday asking like, hey, you never turned any assignments in, what's going on? Of course, ideally, I want you to let me know on Saturday that your assignment is going to be missing. But at least in those cases, reply back, okay? At least try to show that you're interested in doing well in the class. And, like I said, I'm willing to bend over backwards to help you all, but you guys just need to meet me halfway. And that's pretty much it. And this assignment this week is so easy. You guys are going to have no trouble at all doing it. Okay, so let's take a look and venture into the classroom and talk about what your first assignment is, and then we'll look at how we can create our first assignment. Okay, so here we are in our classroom. And your first discussion is to introduce yourself, not graded, but I definitely want to encourage you guys to join us. And your second discussion this week is your discussion about retouching in Photoshop. And so what you want to do is make your initial post by Wednesday night, and then make 2 of the required follow-up posts so that you can earn full credit. Make sure that your initial post is 150 words or more. Make sure that you include cited sources, just like you do for all academic writing. And then make sure that you respond in 50 words or more to your fellow classmates. And you're talking about, photo retouching in Photoshop and, the implications of that. So a really good way to get started is you can look at my own post on retouching in Photoshop, and you'll see I like to embed images as examples. And images in your discussion post make your discussion much more interesting. Also, images are going to be required in future classes that you take. So let's talk about how you can embed images in your discussion. and talk about them and include them in your writing. So here's just kind of an example of how you can go about making your discussion board post. You want to include, you want about 80% of your discussion board content to be your own original opinion and analysis. And then 20% can be quotes from outside sources that support your opinion and analysis, okay? And then here's our little references section where you're gonna include your references. So how do we go about posting images into our discussion? What I'm gonna do is go on Google, which is a great place to find images for your discussion. And something that's really creepy to look at as an example of bad photoshopping is child beauty pageants retouching. And then you go and Google image search, and you can see like some of these examples are just so bad, super creepy. Yep, it is Halloween, yay! So get your assignments done early so that you can enjoy Halloween. Now what you do is after you find your image, and you click on it and you view image in this browser by itself, you go to the URL at the top of the screen, you click on it to highlight it, and then you go to Command-C to copy, Command-C to copy. And then you go to the discussion, you can start typing. And then you can go to the embed image. Click on the URL space, click, and then click update. And ta-da, now I have embedded that image into this discussion. Pretty cool, right? Now we're ready to go on to our assignment. So what you're doing with this assignment is, this is your chance to experiment with the program, experiment with the tools, and there is really no right or wrong way to do this, okay? The only requirements are that this desktop wallpaper, that's what it's being called, but it's just basically an abstract design that you can have fun with. It needs to be 4 inches high and 9 inches wide. It needs to be obviously made for the screen, so it's going to be 72 DPI. And you're going to submit 2 files to the gradebook, a JPEG and a PSD. So I'm going to explain what all of that means in just a moment. With all of your assignments, definitely pay attention to the rubric. This is very important. So every time you're about ready to turn in an assignment, take a look at the rubric to make sure you've met all the requirements. So as you can see, for this assignment, you're going to get 25 points for making the document 4 inches high by 9 inches wide. You're going to get 25 points for making it 72 DPI resolution. You're going to get 25 points for saving it as a JPEG, 25 points for submitting the PSD, saving it as a PSD and submitting it, and 20 points for using a wide variety of tools. So this is Photoshop. When you get your Photoshop downloaded, this is what it's going to look like when it is open. And your arrangement, your layout might be a little bit different than mine. I like to float my windows around so I can, manipulate my space a little bit. These are the only 2 windows that you will need to worry about for now, the layers and the tools. If for whatever reason your layers and your tools are not showing up, or the layers and the tools go missing for some reason, you can go up to Window and then click on, you can click F7 or just click on Layers. You can go up to Window and then click on Tools. So sometimes this happens. You accidentally hit on the X and you're like, oh no, my layers and my tools are gone. What am I gonna do? Go to Window, click on Layers, go to Window, click on Tools, and those windows then come right back, okay? You can also go to Window, Workspace, and we'll just click on Essentials, and it will just bring up the essential windows. Now let's make our document. So I'm gonna go to File, New, and we're gonna make this the right size. So we're gonna make the width 9, and the height 4, and the resolution, right now it's 300. We're gonna make it 72 because 300 is the resolution that you would use if you're making something for print. 72 is what you would use if you're making something for the screen, and we're making something for the screen, okay? And for the color mode, we'll use RGB. So I just wanna make sure everyone has that. And this is a point where you're definitely gonna wanna write down your notes. So if you haven't written this down already, what you'll do is you'll write down 1, and then you'll circle it, because this is step 1. And you'll write down File, and then you could write a dash or an arrow, and then write New, because you're gonna go to File, New. Let me do that again. File, New, to bring up this new document dialog box. And now you're gonna change, now this is step 2, so you're gonna write a 2, and then you're gonna circle it. So step 2 is you're gonna make the width 9 inches and the height 4 inches, and the resolution 72. And now you're gonna click OK. So why do we write down notes as we're looking through a demonstration? Because when you are done with this lecture and you want to now follow along and do what I've done, you can refer to your notes. And you know, maybe you're one of those students who's following along with me right now, and you're doing exactly what I'm doing on your own computer. But the problem is, if you're just following my exact steps, you're not gonna remember what I've taught you. So when it comes to making your own project again, you're not gonna remember all the steps that I did. So it's much better to write down notes than do it yourself. Write down notes and then do it after this class session is over. And then if at any point you get stuck, you can come to my multi-session on Thursday and I can help you. Okay, so definitely write down notes. I can't stress how important this is, because writing down notes will then give you this thing that you can reference while you do it on your own. Okay, now I'm going to make the absolute simplest project, the simplest week 1 project that will guarantee that you're gonna get an A, and it will take you 5 seconds to do, because I know there's some students out there who are very busy, and especially, you know, Halloween, you're very busy, and maybe you're in a rush to get your week 1 assignments done super fast. So I'm gonna show you the 5-minute, how to get this assignment done in 5-minute version. And then I'm gonna go through this assignment again and show you how you can do it a little bit more complicated. And, you know, both are gonna get you a good grade, both are gonna get you an A. But I know, you know, some students, you know, have a lot of passion for graphic design. I'm hoping you all do, but I want to get the chance to experiment with a lot of different tools and see what you can do with this, and hopefully create something good for your portfolio. Okay, so first, this is the 5-minute wallpaper. I'm going to make a new layer. Now I'm going to go to Shift-Command-N. Shift-Command-N to make a new layer. Write that down. Shift-Command-N. I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to go to my brush tool, which is this guy over here. And you can also click the shortcut key, B, for brush. And now with my brush tool, right now my brush is super large, so if I click, it's going to paint my whole document with a color. So I need to shrink my brush size down quite a bit. And I can do that by going up here and then reducing the size. Okay, now I have a little brush. Now what's going to happen if I paint a white brush on a white background? You're not going to see anything, right? So I am going to click on this white swatch here, and I'm going to select a different color. Now I'm going to go, okay. Now I'm going to write a bunch of polka dots. And now I'm done. And I'm going to save this. So step 1, make a document, 4 inches by 9 inches, 72 dpi. Step 2, Shift Command N to make a new layer. Step 3, select the brush tool and shrink down the size of your brush. Then select a color swatch from the color picker, right? It can be any color you want. Scribble, have fun, and now you're going to save it, okay? So to save your project, you're going to first save the native file format, which is the format which has all of the layers. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, and we're going to make a folder on our desktop for all of our schoolwork files. So I'm going to click on New Folder. So I browse to my desktop. I'm going to click on New Folder down here, and I'm going to call this DES104 Schoolwork, and I'll call this October. I'm going to click Create. So there is now my folder for my schoolwork, and I'm going to call this the conventional file name, which is DES104Week1_assignments. And then you're going to put your name. So this first file that you're turning in is your native file format that has all of your layers. This is the format that you can edit later if your client or your teacher comes back to you and says, I want you to make a change to this document. That PSD file is the document where you can make the change. Now I'm going to save the JPEG. So I'm going to go to File, Export, Save for Web, File, Export, Save for Web. Now you can select any JPEG you want here. You go to JPEG, and then you can click on High if you want. You can click on Medium. I want to keep this a really, really nice small file size. So JPEG High or JPEG Medium is fine. And now I'm going to hit Save. I'm going to save it to our same folder. And the only difference is now that it ends in .jpeg, not .psd. And now I'm going to hit Save. So a really important note when making your file names, you guys pay attention, and I want you to write this down. No spaces in file names. Now circle it, okay? No spaces in file names. Write that down and circle it. You are not allowed to have spaces in your file names, because if you have a space in your file name, it will cause all sorts of problems. Right? If you're a web designer, that means it's not going to show up on the website that you've designed. If you are sending something to a client, that means it's not going to open easily on their system. So no spaces in your file names. Also, no commas in your file names. No question marks or exclamation points. Underscores are good. So that's why, when I'm saving something, I'm going to go File, Save As. We're going to save it DES104_, okay? _week1_assignment_ your name .psd, and that dot before the file extension is the only dot that is allowed. If you have other dots in your file name, that will trick the computer into thinking that you are making a strange sort of file type, and the computer will not open up the file. So use this naming convention to save your files, okay? No spaces, no extra characters. And as you can see, that is our 5-minute assignment. That is how you can make this assignment in 5 minutes, turn it in, get an A, and know you're gonna do well this week, okay? Let me do that one more time, just in case anyone needs a second look at how to do this. So step 1, write this down too. Go to File, New, Make the document size 9 inches, the height 4 inches, and the resolution 72. I'm going to click OK. Now we're going to make a new layer by hitting Shift-Command-N, Shift-Command-N, write that down, Shift-Command-N, write that down. Now you're going to go to B for brush. You can just hit B on your keyboard to bring up the brush, or you can go over here and click on the brush tool. Then go down to your color palette here and select any color for your foreground color, you know, any color you want. And then scribble or make dots or do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Have fun. And now you can save it. So you're going to go to File, Save As, and I'll name this DES104 underscore. Underscore is shift hyphen, by the way. Underscore shift, hyphen. Week 1 underscore your name. And I'll call this B. And that is your PSD file. That's your Photoshop file. See how it says .psd at the top? See how the format says Photoshop? Layers is selected. Hit Save. Now we're going to save the JPEG by going to File, Export, Save for Web. File, Export, Save for Web. You're going to select JPEG Medium. You're going to hit Save. And then you're going to hit Save. And see, that is less than 5 minutes. You've done your assignment. Now, I know some of you want to do something a little bit more complicated for your design, right? Maybe you're hoping to make something that you can then use for your portfolio. Maybe you just want to experiment with the software program. So let's learn a few more, slightly more complicated things that you can do here in Photoshop. Okay, so one, you might be noticing that my canvas is rather small. That's because this is 72 dpi and I'm zoomed out to 100%. If you want to zoom into your canvas, that means look at it closer, you can hit Command plus sign. So write that down. This is an important shortcut key. Command plus sign to zoom into your project. And I'm not making my project bigger, I'm just zooming into it to see it closer and zooming out. Why would you want to do that? Okay, so let's now talk about the difference between vector and raster objects. I'm going to make a new layer. Remember, Shift-Command-N. If you haven't written that down, Shift-Command-N to make a new layer. And the tool I'm going to use to make a shape is the Custom Shape tool. And on your tool panel over here on the left-hand side, your Custom Shape tool is found underneath the Text tool. Or if your tool panel looks like this, the Shape tool is underneath the Path Selector tool, which is that little arrow there. And you might see a Shape tool that looks like, it might be a rectangle. What you see on your program might be an ellipse or a polygon. The thing is, all of those tools, the rectangle tool, the rounded rectangle tool, the ellipse tool, the polygon tool, the line tool, and the Custom Shape tool, all of those tools are roommates together. They all live together on the same button. So in order to access one of them, you have to click on whatever one is showing up before you can get to the others. Okay, I'm going to select my ellipse tool now. And after you have selected a shape tool, you'll go up to the top of the screen and you'll see 3 options. You'll see shape, path, and pixels. Shape, path, and pixels. The mode that I recommend that you use is the shape mode, because this is a vector, it creates a vector shape that can be easily resized. Let me show you what that means. So if I select the pixels option, what I'm doing is I'm creating a shape that is made out of little squares of color. And if I hit Command plus sign, I can zoom in and I can see those little squares. So can you see those little squares? So I've made a shape out of these little squares of color. The problem with that is if I decided I wanted to resize that shape, the shape will then appear blurry and pixelated. Let's take a look. So I'm going to hit I'm going to hit Command T. So that's a shortcut key that you guys want to write down. Command T or Control T if you're on a PC Command T if you're on a Mac, Control T if you're on a PC. And what this does is it creates the bounding box that will allow you to resize your shape. So now what I'm going to do is hold down my Shift button. I'm holding down my Shift button, and I'm going to click on the corner of my shape, and I'm going to click and drag. And as you can see, as I'm holding down the Shift button and I'm clicking and dragging to resize the shape, those squares of pixels have gotten larger. And so the result is, if I were to print this out, it would be a very low quality design. It would look very blurry and pixelated. And that is why the pixels option is not recommended when you are drawing shapes. A better tool to use when drawing shapes, and by the way, I just hit the delete button to delete that layer, is the shape option, which creates a vector shape. So I'm going to go to Shift Command N to make a new layer, Shift Command N to make a new layer. And now I'm going to go to the top of the screen, and I'm going to select shape. I'm going to select shape. And now I'm going to hold down the Shift button, click and drag, and draw my little circle. Now already it looks a little bit different, but don't worry, that little silvery light outline that you see around the shape is not going to show up when you print it out or save it as a JPEG. That silvery line is just to let you know that this is a vector object that you can resize. Also, in the layer panel, instead of it saying layer 1, it is now saying ellipse 1, also letting you know that this is a vector shape. Another really cool thing about vector shapes is that you can easily change their color and you can change their attributes. For instance, in this properties window that popped up as soon as I drew my shape, I can change the color. So I can change that purple color to a blue color if I want, to an orange color, to whatever color I want. And if I don't want to choose one from one of these little boxes here, I can go to the color picker and I can choose any old color that I want. Okay, I can also add an outline around my shape, either by going up here at the top of the screen or going into the properties window here. And let's see, all I have to do is click on this and then choose a color, right? And I have nice little 1 pixel outline around my shape. If I want to increase the size of that outline, I can go like that, right? I can increase the size of the outline. If I wanted to make that outline into circles or dashes, I can click on this line option here, and I can make a dashed line or a little dotted line. So a lot of little different options here. You can also change the alignment of the stroke, put it towards the middle. I'm going to make the little dot so you guys can see it. Right, and I can also towards the outside. Right, you can see how size of the stroke is affected by that slider there. Cool. So now we want to increase the size of this object. And remember, with our pixeled circle, it became blurry and pixelated. Watch what happens when I zoom in, Command + sign to zoom in, and then we will see pixels, but you'll notice that we're not going to get that blurry pixelated look. We're going to hit Command T. We're going to hold down the Shift button, click and, hold down the Shift button. Hold down the Shift button, click and drag on the corner. And you can see it's not blurry and pixelated anymore. All right, so the shape tools are something that you can play with for your assignment this week. You can even make a whole project out of shape tools, right? I can just continue to draw all sorts of polka dots. I'm just holding down the Shift button and drawing polka dots, polka dots, polka dots all over the place. And you can make a whole wallpaper that is just full of polka dot shapes. Right, this looks like a pretty nice design. that properties window gets annoying every time it pops up. I can move it over there. All right. So a perfectly good project for your week 1 assignment. Right, all polka dots. But you may also want to experiment with some of the other shape tools that are available in Photoshop. Yes, I just hit the delete button, by the way, to delete those layers. So some other tools that are really, really fun to play with is the polygon tool. Now the polygon tool allows you to make all sorts of shapes, but also stars. And this is something that always like really impresses people. So definitely pay attention to this point if you want to make some stars. So I'm going to click on the polygon tool. Oh, thank you. But watch what I do with the stars. So I click on the polygon tool, and I'm going to go to the gear option at the top of the screen, which is this guy right here. And what I'm going to do is check on this box here that says stars. And just for kicks, you can change the settings here to whatever you want. I'm going to indent my sides by 99. And I'll just put 66 sides on my star. Watch this. Now I've made this cool starburst shape. And because I had stroked it with polka dots, that starburst shape then created a bunch of polka dots going out like that. But I'm going to get rid of these polka dots. See what it looks like if I just keep it kind of small. Yeah, I think I should. I'll just show you what the star by itself without the polka dots looks like. Oh, now my computer's like going really slow because it's like too many dots. Oh no, did I get the spinny ball of death? So the spinny rainbow ball of death is when your spinny rainbow ball keeps on spinning in a circle and freezes your program and doesn't allow you to do anything. And it happens sometimes when I am working Zoom and hosting a class session and running Photoshop at the same time. So I hope I don't have to cancel and quit my Photoshop and restart it. I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment and see if I can get the spinny ball of death to go away. Hey, this is a good time to answer any questions if you guys have any. So anyone have any questions? Yes. That did the trick. So unsharing made the spinny ball of death go away. Yes, so the Adobe suite of programs, Annabelle just mentioned that's taking forever to download. Yeah, it is a large file. So some tips for downloading Photoshop is one, make sure if you're living with anyone, make sure that everyone in your house is off their devices, not using Netflix, not streaming Pandora, not watching YouTube. So make everyone in your house, stop whatever they're doing with the internet. And then start the download. And if it's still taking a long time, what I'd recommend doing is waiting until like the middle of the night, like before you're gonna go to bed, and make the download happen right before you go to bed, so that's the middle of the night is when the internet tends to run a little bit faster. So yeah, Karen, I don't know what step Annabelle is on, but those are some tips that might work. So this is what my little star looks like. Right now my star has dots on it, so it's very dotty looking. But let's get rid of those dots completely. And so this is what my my design looks like without the dots. So it's just a nice little ray of sunshine, isn't it? We can change the color. We can make it kind of a darker purple like that. So let me do that again, since it kind of froze up while I made that big starburst. So what we do is you hit Shift-Command-N to make a new layer, of course. Now I'm going to go to my polygon tool. And this time, instead of indenting the sides so much, what I'll do is I'll do maybe 13 sides, and I'll indent my sides by, let's do like 90 or 80. And I'll do smooth indents, and it'll look a little bit different. Right, isn't that cool? So we can make all sorts of different types of stars using that polygon tool. Let's see another type of star. This time I'll put 7 sides on my star, and I'll make smooth corners, and then I'll indent my sides by 90. See how this looks. Oh, yeah, I hate that rainbow spinny ball, because especially if you haven't saved your project, you're like, oh no, do I have to force quit my computer? And it's disappointing. Okay, let's do one more star. Let's do 5, and smooth corners. I'll indent my sides back 50. Now we have these little, so see how you can kind of create all sorts of different types of stars using the polygon tool. So this is definitely one to play with and have fun with. Now, the reason that we have these layers in Photoshop, and ideally, you want to make all of your changes whenever you're working with a Photoshop document, you want to make all of your changes on separate layers, okay? So all your changes go on separate layers so that you can move stuff around and change things independently. So let's say I decided that this first polygon that I made, say I didn't want it anymore. I can just click on the eyeball tool to make it go away. I can also, let's say I wanted to move this polygon here underneath my ellipse. Now it has a different effect. It has kind of like, now it's kind of like a ray of sun, you know, coming out from behind that big ellipse. Okay, so now we've learned the ellipse tool, and we've learned the polygon tool. And another tool to learn is the custom shape tool, which is really cool, which is this little amoeba looking shape down here at the bottom of the tool panel. So a little custom shape tool there. And what that does is it gives you access to the custom shape library, which is available at the top of the screen. And this is a whole wide variety of different shapes that are available in Photoshop for you to use. And you can click on any one, and then you can really easily just hold down the Shift button and click and drag at a diagonal angle, and ta-da, you can make a cool, interesting shape like that. And I didn't put it on a separate layer, so you can see what happened there is every time I tried to move that shape, everything else moves. That's why you want to make sure that you make a new layer before you make a new shape, and then click and drag at a diagonal angle. And then in order to move your shapes around and move stuff around, you can hit the letter V. This is a really important shortcut key to write down, you guys. The letter V on your keyboard allows you to move and drag and move your shapes around. The letter V, okay? And it's really handy to put all of your shapes and objects on separate layers so that you can move them independently. So I can move these stars around anywhere I wanted, right? I can move these stars around anywhere I wanted, and they're all independent from each other. Okay, so now you have 3 tools that you can definitely play with on your abstract wallpaper design assignment: your ellipse tool, your custom shape tool, and your polygon tool. Any questions so far on anything that I've gone over? Okay, now sometimes it has been known to happen. Students have issues, right? I made a little cartoon that goes over some common issues that sometimes come up in Photoshop. And there is a moral or a message to this cartoon. So see if you can identify what the moral or message of this cartoon is.
Hello. I noticed that the file you submitted for your Photoshop homework was a 500 megabit PSD document. Due to the fact that it will take me about 3 hours to download a file that big and I have 120 other students to grade, would you mind submitting a small JPEG file under 500 kilobits in addition to your PSD document?
How do I make a JPEG file?
I have explained how to do this in both the lectures and in the video I made entitled Step-by-Step Instructions on How to Do Your Photoshop Homework. You can also find out how to make a JPEG in the textbook. Have you watched my lectures?
No. I don't have time to watch the lectures. I work a full-time job.
You should definitely try to watch the lectures, because there are a lot of important instructions on how to do your class assignments. At the very least, do try to watch the video I made called Step-by-Step Instructions on How to Do Your Photoshop Homework.
Where is that video?
It's in the announcement section of the classroom in bright red bold letters at the top of the screen.
I don't think I have time to watch that video. Can you just tell me how to save a JPEG?
I'm starting to worry that maybe you didn't do your Photoshop homework correctly if you don't even know how to save a JPEG. You should watch the video instructions and make sure you did everything correctly.
I don't have time to watch these videos. Just tell me how to do the Photoshop homework.
Okay. First open Photoshop. Then, go to File, New, and make a document that is 8 by 10 and 72 dpi in RGB mode.
Whoa. This is too hard. There is too much to remember. How am I going to possibly learn this all?
I think it would be much easier if you just watch the video I made, and take notes on it, and then pause, rewind and rewatch the parts that are confusing to you.
RGB. DPI. This is so confusing. I'm never going to remember this all. Photoshop is too hard.
Thousands of people learn Photoshop every day. It's not hard at all, and actually pretty fun.
There's too much to remember. There's all these tools and layers. I'm so confused. I couldn't learn this online. I'm taking Illustrator at the same time. This is too hard.
I've taught hundreds of students Photoshop online. They all had to learn Illustrator at the same time. Most of them passed both classes and most of those got A's. I know you can as well.
I have a job and a family. I need to spend time with my family.
Most students taking online classes have jobs and families. They have succeeded and you can too.
School is taking too much time away from my family. My family comes first.
Lots of students at this school work jobs and have families.
My kid has the flu. I need to take care of him.
If you were sick, would you expect your kid to ignore his or her schoolwork to take care of you? If you work hard in this class and get good grades, you'll be able to get a good job and send your kid to college one day. Don't you want your kid to see how important school is, and how making excuses only ends up costing more money and time in the long run?
I'm not making excuses. Photoshop is too hard. I'm too old to learn new things. I'm never going to get this.
Most my students are older. Sure, the first week of class is always a little difficult, but everyone usually catches on as long as they do the reading, watch the lectures, videos, and email me if they have questions.
Maybe I should take this class on campus instead of online.
In many ways, learning online is easier, because you can rewatch the lectures as many times as you want. You have immediate access to a tutor several times a week, and you can call or email me anytime if you need help.
This is too hard. I keep making mistakes. Maybe I should switch to another school.
I know it seems difficult. But if you quit now, you won't get to find out how fun Photoshop can be and how I do hope you will watch the lectures and videos and then visit tutoring or call me if you need help. This is only the first week. Don't quit now.
Alrighty, so what was the moral or message of that little video, do you guys think? So the message is that you have a whole bunch of resources available to you to succeed in this class. And I, your teacher, am willing to bend over backwards to help you do whatever I can to ensure that you succeed. But please do take advantage of all of the resources. If that guy in that video, put half of the effort that he put into making excuses into just watching the video and following along and doing the assignment, he'd probably have the class finished and be on to his next class by now. So don't make excuses. We have a lot of resources for you, so take advantage of them. Now, sometimes it has been known to happen. A student might get a low grade on an assignment. We don't like that sort of thing happening, but it has been known. There are 4 main reasons why students usually end up getting a low grade on their assignment. And I made another little cartoon to showcase what those 4 main reasons are. See if you can identify the 4 main reasons why a student might earn a low grade on his assignment.
Why did I get such a low grade on my Photoshop homework?
Did you see the feedback I wrote for you in the grad book?
There was no feedback.
Yes, there was. If you click on the score you received, a window will open up showing you the feedback I wrote on your assignment. Let me explain the 3 things you did incorrectly on this assignment. 1. The image you used in your design was copyright protected and illegal to use.
No, it wasn't. I found it for free while searching on Google.
Yes, that's the problem. In my lectures and in the classroom I have stated repeatedly that Google is not a stock photography company. The images you find on Google are copyright protected. They belong to the artists and photographers who made them, and you don't have permission to use them.
So how am I going to get permission to use that image? Contact the photographer. That's a lot of work.
You can do that. But I would suggest instead of using copyright-protected images found on Google, you visit a free stock exchange website and use free stock photos for your class assignments.
Which websites are stock photo websites?
Again, I've provided this information numerous times in the lectures and in the classroom. But okay, one stock photography website is Stock Exchange. You can just Google Stock Exchange and then it's the first website that comes up that's not related to the stock market. The URL is isxc.hu.
How do I download images from Stock Exchange?
You have to register for a free account. And then you click on the thumbnail image and the photo will open in a large window. Next, click and drag the large photo to your desktop.
Wait a minute. This cute image of a bunny has a watermark over it. How do I get that watermark off the image?
Not all the stock photos on Stock Exchange are free. You have to pay for some.
But I don't want to pay.
I know. That's why you should only use the free images. Those are the ones that don't have watermarks on them.
Can't I just use the clone stamp tool to get rid of the watermark?
No. Trying to use an image that you didn't pay for is stealing and it would earn you a poor grade.
So what else did I do wrong on my assignment?
Your design has numerous spelling, grammatical, punctuation and capitalization errors.
I thought this was a Photoshop class, not an English class.
It is, but if you expect to get work as a professional designer, you need to make sure that your designs have no mistakes in them whatsoever. If you design for a client and give them a product with a bunch of typos on it, you will never get work from that client ever again.
But I want to work for a big design firm. At big companies, they have people who check for mistakes.
Yes, and if the people who check for mistakes see you making mistakes like this, you will be fired.
What was the last thing I did wrong?
One of the images in your design is very blurry and pixelated. It looks like it was originally a small image that you sized to make bigger and it became pixelated in the process.
Yes, I needed a picture of a house. The only picture I could find was small, so it had to be resized.
Are you telling me that you couldn't find a photo of a house that was larger than 2000 pixels?
That's right. The only pictures of houses that I could find were small.
In the future, if you ever can't find an image that is high resolution and you can't photograph your own image, then you need to change your concept. Pixelated images are unacceptable. You need to make sure that your design looks clean and professional so that you can use it in your professional portfolio.
Can I redo my assignment?
Normally I don't let students redo their assignment. But if you can swap out those images for free stock photos and fix your pose in the next 60 minutes, I will accept it.
60 minutes? How can I erase and clone stamp out all my typos and photos in 60 minutes?
Are you telling me that your photos and texts are all merged together and you didn't save your separate layers?
Merged? No. Of course not. I don't know how to merge. I made my design all on the background layer.
From the very beginning of class, I have stressed the importance of keeping each of your elements on separate layers. You need to use non-destructive editing techniques so that you have the most flexibility in your revisions.
I don't have time to make new layers. I was in a hurry.
Then it looks like you won't have time to resubmit your assignment.
Alrighty, so what were the 4 mistakes that that student made on his assignment? 1, he used copyright protected imagery, right? 2, he took small, low resolution images and he resized them to make them bigger. 3, he had spelling and grammatical mistakes on his design. And he made all of his changes on the background layer, resulting in his inability to make changes to the document. So he had to start his project all over again, okay? So those are 4 main reasons why students usually end up getting a low grade on their assignment. Please do not, do not make those mistakes, okay? So one thing that was discussed in that video is using images for your projects. What I'll do is as an example, I will put a photo into my project here. So where are some places that you can go for photos? Now, when I made that cartoon, using images on Google was a big no-no. But recently, somewhat recently, Google made it so that you can search specifically for images that are not copyright protected and that are license-free and that you have permission to use. So I really want you guys to pay attention because I'm going to show you the correct process for finding and downloading and using images in your projects for this class, okay? So everyone pay attention. So I'm going to go on Google. And I'm going to do a search for a little animal. And I'm going to go to Google Images. Now, I can't just randomly use whatever image I want here because some of these images are copyright protected. So I'm going to go to Tools, and I'm going to click on Usage Rights, Tools, Usage Rights, and I'm going to click Labeled for Reuse Modification. Labeled for Reuse Modification. Next, I'm going to go to Size, and I'm going to click on Large. So now we are only seeing the images that are large and high resolution and that we have permission to use. So then I'm going to find one picture. How about I'll use that little guy. And I'm going to click on View Image. and I'm ready to download it. So what I need to do is I can't just download this picture here because this is a small resolution preview image. I need to click View Image and view this image full size before I can download it. And now here I'm going to hold down the control button and I'm going to click on the picture and I'm going to hit Save Image As, and I will call this raccoon. So now I'm ready to bring this photo into my project. So what I need to do is make a new layer on my topmost layer. So I'll click on that shape and I'll click on a new layer. Make a new layer, a square with the little triangle in it, or Shift Command N. And then I'm going to go to File, Place Embedded. And I'm going to browse to my raccoon face photo. And now I can put him wherever I want him. Now you may be wondering, well, it's kind of boring having just a square picture thrown on there. Wouldn't it be cool if I could kind of change the shape of the picture? Yes. In week 3, we are going to learn about something called masking and compositing, which are different techniques to cut an image out of its background and get it to blend in with the other images in a composition. And so you aren't required to know this for your week 1 assignment, obviously. Like I showed you, you are welcome to submit polka dots and you will get a good grade on this assignment. But if you want to experiment a little bit with some more advanced tools because you're fancy, what you can do is after bringing your photo in, you'll go down to the bottom of the layers panel and click on the square with the little circle inside of it. So click on the square with the little circle inside of it. And then go to your brush tool. And with your brush tool, make sure that the color of your brush is black. And make sure that your mask, that's this white square that is popped up on your layer. And then what you can do is you can paint away and you can kind of hide this background. You can get these two images to blend together. Again, this is kind of a fancier, slightly more advanced technique for Photoshop. So it's certainly not required for this assignment. You will be learning more about it in week 3, but this is essentially a mask. Option click. A mask is a stencil. And every time you paint with black on that stencil, it erases that part of the layer and lets you see underneath it. So that's how you can do some interesting blending and compositing. Now, so we've used our shape tools. We've learned how to use our brush tools. You guys have a lot of tools now that you can experiment with on this project. One final one that I encourage you to experiment with is the adjustment layers. The adjustment layers. Now, if you go down to the bottom of the layers panel, there is a circle that's light on one side, dark on the other. If you're taking notes, you don't have to write down that long description. Just draw a little picture of this circle that's light on one side, dark on the other, and then write the words "click it" next to it, right? And then from here, you get access to all of these different adjustment layers. And the one that we'll play with this week is hue saturation. In week 2, we're going to learn quite a few more adjustment layers. But we're going to play with hue saturation. And hue saturation is popped up in the properties now. So your properties are where you're going to adjust your adjustments. And here on the slider, you can see as I move the slider around, the document changes color. So the handy thing about hue saturation is you can see what your design might look like in a variety of different colors, okay? Hue saturation. Hue saturation, okay? And then remember, of course, to save your document, you can go to File, Save As, and I'm going to make sure that my first file is my native file format, which is the .psd, the Photoshop file, and I'm going to hit Save. And then my next file that I'm going to save is, oh, I saw someone post in the chat. Yep, you can make a purple raccoon. In Photoshop, you can make anything. And then I'm going to save my JPEG by going to File, Export, Save for Web, File, Export, Save for Web. And I'm going to select JPEG, and JPEG medium is good, and then I'll hit save. And remember, this week, you're going to upload 2 files to the gradebook. You're going to upload 2 files. You're going to upload the PSD file and the JPEG, the PSD file and the JPEG. Any questions so far? Do you guys want to see some examples of student projects from past classes? So I put together this little video of past student work, so you can kind of see the type of work that we do in this program. If you want to add your own work, if you make something that you like and you want to add it to this video, just email it to me and I'll make your work famous to the world. Pretty cool, right? You guys can do stuff like that. Hopefully very soon. Let's talk about a few final things. So you guys got a lot of tools. You got your brush tool, your ellipse tool, your shape tools, all of that stuff. We talked about the differences between vector and raster art. So you want to understand that vector art can be easily resized, right? So those shapes that are made in the shape mode can be easily resized. Shapes that are made in the pixel mode will end up getting blurry or pixelated if you try and make them larger. And photos, by default, like this photo of this flower here, photos are raster images. That's just the way they are. So you can't take a photo and then make it a vector. it's not going to work. So that's why anytime you bring a photo into your document, you want to make sure it's high resolution and large to begin with. And you can always take that large photo and shrink it down to make it smaller, but you can't take a small photo and then stretch it to make it bigger, or else it will get blurry and pixelated in the process. Okay, so those are our shape tools, and the main really important thing is the shape tools. You want to make sure that when you're using them in vector mode, okay? So you're using those shape tools in vector mode. Alrighty, so my approach to teaching this class is to spend, half the class doing this kind of stuff where I demonstrate how to do your assignment and take you step by step through how to do your assignment, and then half the class talking about like how to get a job and how to be successful in this industry, and how to make your projects as appealing as possible using the rules of design and all of that. So I just want to take a moment to talk to you about being an effective student and how to work effectively. Actually, but first, before I get into that, I want to share with you guys the answers to our week 1 assessment. Your assessment is a multiple choice quiz, and those of you who are viewing this class lecture tonight will get the advantage of seeing the answers to the quiz. And this will hopefully then encourage you all to watch the lectures, because I give you important answers and stuff like this. So, question 1. Photoshop images are based on pixels. Each pixel is a small square that represents one color or shade. That is true. Question 2. What is this thing? This is the toolbar. The toolbar, okay? Got that, guys? The toolbar. Question 3. You can select most tools not only with the mouse, but with the shortcut keys as well. That is true. You can use shortcut keys as well as the mouse. Question 4. Blank, that's layers, are sections in the image that can be manipulated independently. In a sense, they're stacked on each other. So layers, the answer to question 4 is layers. And then question 5, you can only undo the last 3 steps. Oh, that's a shortcut key we haven't talked about yet. Command Z or Control Z or Option Control Z or Option Command Z or Alt Control Z. Those are the shortcut keys to undo, and notice they are here in the screenshot for your quiz. Control Z to undo. So you painted something and you don't want to paint that thing after all, you Control Z to undo, or you Command Z to undo. And then if you want to undo a lot of steps, you select Alt Control Z or Option Command Z. Z is in zebra. And you can undo many, many steps. You can undo by default 50 steps, and then you can change Photoshop to be able to undo more if you want. So that is false. The help menu is a designer's friend. That is true. And question 7, if you want to put a multi-layered image into your Photoshop image without losing all of those layers, what do? You do place. So that's how I brought my raccoon in. I went to File, Place Embedded, File, Place Embedded. This works for other Photoshop projects if I want to bring them in. This works for photos. This works for Illustrator projects you want to bring in. You go to File, Place Embedded. Okay. So everyone got those answers? You guys are going to get 100% on the quiz. So Photoshop images are based on pixels. That thing there is the toolbar. You can select most tools with shortcut keys. Layers are sections in an image that can be manipulated independently. You can only undo your last 3 steps. That is false. The help menu is your friend, and you'll use place to bring a multi-layered image into your Photoshop document. Alrighty. So I want to talk about, that's what I want to talk about the, oh, someone's video is on. Let me stop video there. There we go. Okay. So let me talk a little bit about, working successfully in the school and also kind of the graphic design industry of it. So I've made a little video about how to be an effective student. So see if you can check it out. I want to talk about how to be an effective student and also how to be successful as a graphic designer. Now, we're in my office right now. This is where I do all of my class sessions with you guys. And this is the computer that I mostly use. In fact, this is a Wacom Cintiq, if you're wondering, and it's really handy because I'm able to draw on the screen, if I can find my little pen here, and I can do really easy photo retouching and everything. So if you're interested in upgrading, this is what I use, but by all means you don't have to use a Wacom Cintiq. I got my Wacom Intuos 3 off eBay, which was $35, I believe, and I still use my Wacom Intuos 3 all the time, and for my on-campus classes I use it, and I do a lot of drawing work with it when I want to kind of draw in bed and lay on the floor and sketch, and I don't want to necessarily be sitting at my desk. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to have a good workspace. But just if you're interested, that's what I use. Now, but that's just a side thing. I want to talk about something really important, which is a work area that you can learn in and a work area that you can create in. And when you're doing these class sessions and when you're watching me talk, it's a good idea to be in a distraction-free environment. So find a room in your house where you can close the door and lock it and put a sign on that says, "Do not disturb." Also, try to work in an area that doesn't have a television set or a second computer, where you can really focus on the material that's being taught. If you have the TV running while your class session is going on at the same time, that takes up half of your brain power, and you want 100% of your brain power to be focused on learning. Same for when it comes to creating and working on your assignments. Set aside 2 hours every day where you're just going to be working on your homework. Put a sign on the door that says, "Do not disturb me. I am working on my homework." Lock that door, and when that door is locked, no one is allowed to bother you, okay? Turn your cell phone off. Even consider putting a voicemail message that says, "Do not call during this time because I'm working on my schoolwork." Now, when the class session is going on, it's a good idea to keep a piece of paper right by your computer where you can take notes. In fact, I would say this is required. I personally still watch a lot of graphic design tutorials and videos on how to use Illustrator and how to use Photoshop, doing different techniques, and it's impossible to sit back and watch those videos without taking notes because there's so many steps involved that you won't remember them all. So keep that piece of paper, keep that pencil or that pen, and write down all the steps as I go through them. Also write down any important things that I say, such as back up your work in 2 locations, write that down, or make sure that you submit this design as a JPEG and not a native file format. Write that down. That's all important stuff. So studies have shown that when you actually physically write down your notes, the information stays in your brain longer than if you type up notes, and certainly the information doesn't stay in your brain if you don't take notes at all. Taking notes is an important part of your mind processing information. Now, final thing about your work area and making it effective for learning and creating, this thing, an external hard drive. An external hard drive is a place where you can copy your file and store it outside of your computer. So if anything were to happen to your computer, if your computer crashes and stops working, which has happened to me before, went to turn on my computer one morning and it just didn't turn on. But if you have that work saved on an external hard drive, you can open it up on another computer. Another good idea is to have Google Drive. And even if you're kind of paranoid, which I am about your work, especially work that you're doing for clients because you're like liable for the safety of that file, consider having an off-site location. Of course, Google Drive is great, but I have a external hard drive, just like this one here, in a safe deposit box at the bank. And every couple months I go and I download all of my files to that hard drive at the bank in a safe deposit box. So if my house were to ever burn down, I have my work stored in a very, very safe location. Okay, so workspace. Make sure it's distraction-free, no TVs, no one knocking on your door, cell phone is turned off. Make sure you're 100% focused on our class sessions. Make sure you're taking notes. Make sure you're backing up your work. And make sure you're in the mindset and you're ready to create some awesome stuff. Alrighty, I can't stress the importance of having a external hard drive. This is so important. An external hard drive is where you're backing up your work. I have a personal story where I was working for a really long time on a really important project, and I hadn't yet put the project onto an external hard drive. And one morning, and there was nothing wrong with my computer. My computer was working fantastic for a number of days. One morning I just went to turn on my computer and my computer just wouldn't turn on. And that project was on that laptop. I was in a panic because, oh my gosh, I spent 4 days on that project, and if my computer is dead now and I can't open it and that project is gone forever, I'm going to be really, really sad. Luckily, I took it to my Mac store and they were able to open up my laptop and change out the logic board and get it working again without erasing my files. But as soon as I got my laptop back, I backed everything up to an external hard drive. And and I would say not just one external hard drive, 2 or more. I have one hard drive at the bank in a safe deposit box so that, if my house were to ever burn down, my files are safe there. And then also the cloud. So emailing yourself, your projects is really good. Especially a project that I'm constantly working on all the time. I'll just constantly email it to myself, or I'll upload it to Google Drive. So it's always safe there in a third location. So even if my hard drive crashes and my laptop crashes, I can access my files on the cloud. Any questions about that external hard drive? You can get them so cheap from Walmart. You can get a terabyte, or if you don't need a terabyte, you can get 500 megabyte. Understand that Photoshop files are going to be really large. So getting a 500 megabyte at least is going to be really useful for you. Alrighty. So I think we're ready to kind of wrap things up. And there are no questions at all, anyone? And I think I like to end with like a little inspiration. So if you guys want a taste of what the graphic design industry is like, take a look at this little video, and then we're free to go. And I look forward to seeing your assignments, and come to my multi-session on Thursday for one-on-one help.
First and foremost, graphic design has to communicate something, but good graphic design makes people's lives better.
You have to find a way to make sense of how to make something beautiful, and to me, you're speaking for them.
As a graphic designer, concept is the first thing. Idea and life.
Graphic design is essentially a language for living. Graphic design is about using words and images to convey a message. Graphic designers have to know a lot about color theory, typography, how to create a grid, but those are all really basic. You have to be somebody that is really interested in understanding human behavior, being able to understand how they think, how they choose, how they buy, how they believe. People probably don't think about how much graphic design impacts them. We use graphic design to cross the street, to decide what we want to eat and how much we want to eat. We use graphic design to pay our bills, to get married. We use graphic design to get divorced. We use graphic design in every single aspect of human life right now. And people tend to like things best when they feel that they are respected by that thing. But I think ultimately, if it moves you, whether it be a good emotion or a bad emotion, chances are then it's effective because it's getting you to think about something and it's getting you to potentially take action.
When I work on package design, I like for there to be an idea behind it. I like for there to be some wit, some language, some feeling that there is a human hand behind what you are interacting with. Like, for instance, matchbooks are one of my favorite things to design. It's this nice, intimate moment between you and the smoker or candle lighter, because you have the reveal that can be completely surprising. For the spice market, we turn them into these little incense boxes. I like to think about the product like I'm the consumer. So when we were working on the Kleenex project, we learned that for some people, choosing which pattern on the box to take home is a huge part of their day. So I think about what will give me a moment's pleasure when interacting with that thing. The Mercer Hotel was a really interesting project that was very clean and very understated and witty. And not necessarily witty in the design, but also witty in the language. Like, for instance, there's always that sign on the bathrobe that says, if you take it, you're going to have to pay for it. But we didn't want to say it in such a crass way. So we just made a sign that very simply said, disrobe. And then when you turned it over, it said, is available for purchase in the lobby. And so sometimes maybe beautiful isn't exactly what it should be. Maybe it needs to be quirky, or maybe it needs to be ugly, or maybe it needs to be invisible. So I think you're always solving what it has to look like visually based on what it needs to be conceptually.
A lot of times when people talk about signage and environmental graphics, they think that it always involves letters, but it really involves landmarks, creating a moment that somebody remembers and immediately understands. Graphic designers aren't trained necessarily to think in dimension, but you do need to identify things within space that the architecture wouldn't necessarily be doing otherwise, through color and type and light. Working on the signage for Bloomberg's offices, they wanted people to use the stairs. We thought, if people are intended to use this space, why don't we at least make it interesting to use? If you can make the space interesting, people will want to be there. It really involves creating a moment that somebody remembers and immediately understands. Bridge designs or decorations that we had proposed for the city of Pittsburgh, and our proposal was to essentially make those moments special moments. So it could just be a paint job, or it could be using light in a certain way to highlight that feature as a gateway to the north side. Every building has a timeline of your experience with it. What's the cover of this book? And then how does that play out as one navigates through the space where your mind actually solves a problem? So there's a process of discovery there.
Should you judge a book by its cover? I would really like to say yes, but I think that there's a lot of really good books out there that don't have good covers. My guiding philosophy in design is forever going to change, I think. You have to understand the responsibility you have in terms of there's someone at the end of the line there that actually cares about what you're doing, and you have to give it a voice. I never like to pin myself down to one different style, and to me that's what's fun about design as opposed to an illustrator's style. You can wear different hats. The artistic expression, that is the art of it. Getting into the mind of the book, expressing what the book is about, making it beautiful and grabbing people's attention. You always care about what are you reading first, and that's based on contrast of size, contrast of color. Is the title more important than the author? Can you read it from across the store or not? You know, these are the things that I think about on a daily basis. You have to understand where this book fits in the world of books. The Day the World Ends is a poetry book, and here's an example of, well, what do you focus on? You have all these different poems that are about different things, so broke the type up a little bit and the author just connected with it. If you love the content, you want something to come up in your head when you think about it. So I think a successful book cover is something that you want to hold in your hand. It's unexpected, smart, and beautiful, but at the end of the day, you just want to put it on your bookshelf, face out, because it means something to you.
use graphic design now in many ways to convey who we are as people, to define affiliations, to signal beliefs.
If you can contribute to making people's lives a little bit better and elevating the general level of design, then why not?
If you know how you want to make them feel, that's the most important thing. You just want to make something memorable.
I say, do what you think is right and interesting and smart, and then worry about what the survey says.
Okay, so let me see where the Microsoft Office download is. Okay, I'm gonna go check out the IUGA community and let's browse around together and see if we can find it. Okay, IUGA community. Oh, it's here. Portal.office.com. Let me see. Thank you, Robin. Let's try. All righty. Yep, I think that might be it. Cool. And if you continue to have issues or need additional assistance, Annabelle, definitely your Adobe Suite, Photoshop and everything should be on your laptop because the Adobe Suite of programs and Photoshop won't work on your tablet. Yeah, it won't work on your tablet. And by the way, the number for tech support, I think it's in this IU resource link. IU helpline, so I think you can call there and get some help. I'll just copy and paste this into the chat. Any other questions? Anyone need help with anything? Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being an awesome class, and feel free to email me if you need anything. And I look forward to seeing the work that you guys do this week. Thanks, Alexandria.